The stars twinkled peacefully in the night sky above Houston. Commander Alan Price stood on the roof of the Earth Defense Force headquarters, his eyes fixed on the distant lights. Only one of those lights was moving. It grew brighter each night, and he knew what it meant. They were coming. "Commander, they're requesting your presence in the war room." Alan turned to see his assistant, Linda Barnes, standing by the roof access door. Her face looked pale in the moonlight. Everyone looked pale these days, ever since the long-range telescopes had spotted the Draconian ships entering the solar system 3 weeks ago. "I'll be right there," Alan said, taking one last look at the sky. The war room buzzed with activity. Screens lined the walls showing the massive alien fleet as it passed Jupiter's orbit. 50 ships, then more appeared. 100, then 200, each one larger than the biggest Earth vessel ever built. General Paul Wright, head of the Earth Defense Force, nodded to Alan as he entered. "They're ahead of schedule. At current speed, they'll reach Earth orbit in 18 hours. Alan studied the main screen. The Draconian ships looked like giant arrowheads, their dark metal surfaces reflecting the distant sun. "Have they responded to our messages?" "Yes," said Dr. Olivia Grant as she joined them. Her red hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and dark circles under her eyes showed she hadn't slept in days. As Earth's leading expert in alien languages, she had been working nonstop since first contact. "We received a transmission an hour ago. I've translated it as best I can." She tapped on her tablet and a deep, rumbling voice filled the room. The words came in broken English, each syllable stretched and distorted. "People of Earth, we are the Draconian Empire. We claim your world is ours. Surrender now. Resistance means death." The room fell silent. General Wright was the first to speak. "Can we fight them?" Alan shook his head. "Not with what we have. Our entire fleet could maybe take down one of their ships. They have 200. The United Earth government is still pushing for a diplomatic solution," Olivia said. "I've prepared a response expressing our desire for peaceful cooperation." General Wright snorted. "Cooperation? They want submission." "We have to try," Olivia insisted. "Conflict should always be the last option." "Send your message," Alan told her, "but we should prepare for the worst." 12 hours later, the Draconian fleet had reached Mars. Earth's government leaders gathered in the underground bunker beneath Geneva to hear the aliens' response. Alan stood at the back of the room as President Maria Rodriguez addressed the emergency session. "Dr. Grant has received a new communication from the Draconian fleet. I'll let her explain." Olivia stepped forward, her face grim. "The Draconians have clarified their terms. They expect Earth to become a resource colony for their empire. They demand immediate access to our water, minerals, and," she paused, "biological specimens." Murmurs filled the room. President Rodriguez raised her hand for silence. "What exactly does biological specimens mean, Doctor?" "Based on my analysis of their language patterns, they're referring to humans. They view us as resources to be harvested or studied." The Defense Minister stood up. "This is outrageous. We should mobilize immediately." President Rodriguez remained calm. "Our military assessment suggests we cannot win a direct confrontation. Dr. Grant, could we negotiate for better terms?" "I can try, Madam President, but their language contains no words for compromise. Their culture appears to recognize only dominance or submission." Alan's secure phone buzzed in his pocket. He stepped out to answer it. "Price here." "Commander, this is Control. We're detecting energy readings from the Draconian fleet. They're powering weapon systems." Alan rushed back into the meeting room. "Madam President, the Draconians are preparing to attack. They never intended to negotiate." Chaos erupted in the room. President Rodriguez shouted over the noise. "Order! We have protocols for this scenario." Alan's phone buzzed again. This time it was General Wright. "Price, get to Lunar Base Alpha immediately. You've been activated for Project Prometheus." "Project Prometheus? I've never heard of it." "That's the point. Very few have. Take the next orbital shuttle. Authorization code Sierra 9 Echo 4. Within an hour, Alan was aboard a military shuttle racing toward the moon. Through the viewport, he could see the Draconian ships moving into attack formation around Earth. His home planet looked small and vulnerable below them. The shuttle docked at a small, unmarked facility on the far side of the moon. A man in a lab coat waited for him. "Commander Price, I'm Dr. William Carter. Follow me." They hurried through sterile white corridors, descending deep into the lunar surface. Alan noticed that the architecture began to change the deeper they went. The walls became smoother, the lighting indirect, with no visible sources. "What is this place?" Alan asked. "It doesn't look like our technology." "It's not," Dr. Carter replied simply. They reached a circular chamber with a central platform. The walls were covered in symbols Alan had never seen before. They seemed to shift and move when he wasn't looking directly at them. "Project Prometheus is Earth's last resort. Defense system," Dr. Carter explained. "It was discovered 60 years ago, but we've kept it secret. Very few people know it exists." "Discovered? You mean we didn't build this?" Dr. Carter smiled thinly. "No, Commander. We found it. This facility is approximately 98,000 years old." Alan stared at him in disbelief. "That's impossible. Humans weren't even—" "Exactly. Humans didn't build this. Something else did. Something that was here long before us." Dr. Carter approached the central platform. "And they left this for us as a defense against the very enemy now orbiting our planet." On the main screen they watched as the Draconian fleet moved into final attack position. The alien ships began to glow with energy as they prepared to fire. "How does it work?" Alan asked. "We're not entirely sure," Dr. Carter admitted, "but we know how to activate it." He gestured to a handprint outline on the platform. "Place your hand here." "Why me?" "Because you have the genetic marker. Only about 1 in a million humans do. It's why you were recruited into the Defense Force. In the first place, though you didn't know it. You're compatible with their technology." Alan hesitated. "What will it do to the Draconians?" Dr. Carter's face was grim. "I don't know exactly. The translations suggest it will remove the threat. Are you ready?" On the screen, the first Draconian ship fired a beam of energy toward Earth. A city, Alan couldn't tell which one, erupted in flames. He placed his hand on the outline. The chamber hummed with power. The symbols on the walls began to glow blue, spinning faster and faster around them. "It's working!" Dr. Carter shouted over the growing noise. A pulse of invisible energy expanded outward from the lunar facility, washing over the Earth and the Draconian fleet. There was no explosion, no visible beam. One moment the Draconian ships filled Earth's orbit. The next moment, they were gone. All 200 ships had vanished without a trace. Alan stared at the empty screen. Where did they go? Dr. Carter's face had gone pale. "I don't know, but according to the oldest inscriptions in this facility, this was only the beginning. We've just announced our presence to the galaxy." He looked at Alan with fear in his eyes. "And we've awakened something that was meant to stay asleep." Silence filled the lunar chamber. Commander Alan Price stared at the empty screen where, just moments before, 200 Draconian warships had threatened Earth. Now there was nothing but the peaceful curve of his home planet against the blackness of space. "We should get back to Earth," Dr. Carter said, gathering several data drives from a console. "They'll want answers." The return shuttle trip was tense. Alan watched Dr. Carter clutch a small metal case to his chest. Whatever was inside seemed more valuable than gold. "Where did they go?" Alan asked again. "The Draconians." Dr. Carter stared out the viewport. "The best translation we have suggests they were moved, not destroyed, moved somewhere else." "Where?" "Another dimension, perhaps, or another part of our universe. The facility's records aren't clear on that point." Alan tried to process this. "And who built this facility?" "You said, it's 98,000 years old. We call them the predecessors. We don't know their real name. They weren't human. But they chose Earth for a reason." Dr. Carter tapped the case. "These drives contain everything we've translated from their records. It's not much, maybe 5% of what's stored in the lunar facility, but it's enough to know we've only scratched the surface of what they left behind." When they landed in Geneva, armed guards escorted them to the underground bunker. World leaders had gathered in an emergency session. Screens showed celebrations erupting across the planet as news of the Draconians' disappearance spread. President Rodriguez met them in a private room before the main briefing. Her face was a mixture of relief and concern. Commander Price. Dr. Carter, would you care to explain what just happened? Dr. Carter placed his case on the table. Madam President, what I'm about to tell you has been kept secret by a small group within world governments for 60 years. Project Prometheus was established in 2097 when explorers discovered an alien facility on the far side of the moon. He opened the case and removed a holographic projector. Images appeared above the table, strange symbols, artifacts, and machinery that looked nothing like human technology. The facility was built by a species we called the predecessors. They lived on Earth long before humans evolved. The lunar base contains technology far beyond our understanding, including a defense system designed to protect Earth from specific threats. The Draconians, President Rodriguez said. Dr. Carter nodded. Yes, the predecessors knew them, fought them, and created weapons to defend against them. The Prometheus device is one such weapon. And where are the Draconians now? The President asked. We don't know exactly. The device created some kind of spatial fold that removed them from our reality. They're elsewhere. Admiral Peter Collins, head of the United World Navy, spoke up. Are they dead? No, Dr. Carter said. At least we don't think so. Just relocated. And that's the problem. The Draconian Empire is vast. This was just one fleet. When they realize what happened, the room grew quiet as the implications sank in. So they'll come back, President Rodriguez said. With more ships, yes. And the Prometheus device was never meant to be used more than once without understanding the consequences. Alan leaned forward. What consequences? Dr. Carter hesitated. The translations are unclear, but they suggest that repeated use of the device could awaken the sleepers or break the seal. We think it refers to the predecessors themselves. He tapped the projector and new images appeared. Strange, elongated beings with multiple limbs. These are the closest representations we have of what the predecessors looked like. Based on records in the lunar facility, they didn't die out or leave Earth. They changed, transformed themselves into something else, and the Prometheus device is connected to them somehow. In orbit above Earth, the space station Horizon monitored deep space. Lieutenant Susan Mitchell scanned the readings from the long-range sensors. Something had appeared at the edge of the solar system, energy signatures similar to the Draconian ships but much larger. She opened a communication channel. Earth Defense Command, this is Horizon. We're detecting new contacts, multiple vessels entering the solar system near Pluto's orbit. Back in Geneva, the emergency alarm sounded during the meeting. Admiral Collins checked his tablet and paled. Madam, President, we have more Draconian ships approaching, many more. How many? President Rodriguez demanded. Initial count shows over 500 vessels, and they're bigger than the ones we faced before. Dr. Carter stood. We need to get back to the lunar facility. There's more there than just the Prometheus device. The predecessors left other technologies, other defenses. And knowledge, Alan added. If they fought the Draconians before, they must have had other strategies besides the device. President Rodriguez nodded. Assemble a team. Take whatever resources you need, but Commander Price? Yes, Madam President? Find us a solution that doesn't involve using that device again, at least until we understand the consequences. 3 days later, Alan led a team of scientists and military personnel into the deeper levels of the lunar facility. Dr. Olivia Grant had joined them, her expertise in alien languages proving invaluable as they attempted to decipher more of the predecessor records. This section wasn't in the original surveys, Dr. Carter said as they passed through a doorway that seemed to appear in the wall as they approached. The facility seems to be responding to our presence, opening up to us. The new chamber was vast, stretching hundreds of meters in every direction. The walls were covered in the same shifting symbols as the Prometheus chamber. But the center of the room held something unexpected, a pool of what looked like liquid metal, its surface perfectly still despite the low lunar gravity. "What is it?" Alan asked. Olivia approached the edge of the pool. "Based on these symbols, I think it's some kind of library, or maybe a communication device." She knelt and studied the symbols on the floor. They repeat the word memory over and over, along with another term I can't translate exactly, something like collective or shared mind. Dr. Carter joined her. Could it be a database? A record of their knowledge? Maybe. Olivia stood and gazed at the silver pool. But I think it's more than that. I think it's active, not passive. Alan felt drawn to the pool. As he approached, the liquid metal began to ripple, tiny waves spreading outward from the center. "It's responding to you, Commander," Dr. Carter said excitedly. "Just like the Prometheus device did." Alan reached out his hand, stopping just above the surface of the pool. The liquid rose up to meet his fingertips. "I can feel something," Alan whispered. "Like it's alive." The moment his skin touched the liquid, images flooded his mind. Stars, planets, strange cities built in impossible geometries, and faces, thousands of faces of beings not human, yet somehow familiar. Then a single thought, not his own, formed in his mind. "We have waited long for your return." Alan pulled his hand back, gasping. The liquid settled back into perfect stillness. "What happened?" Olivia asked, steadying him as he stumbled backward. "They're still here," Alan said, staring at the pool. "The predecessors. They're not gone. They're just changed, and they've been waiting for us." Dr. Carter looked pale. "Waiting for what?" "I don't know," Alan replied. "But I think we're about to find out. Because they know we're facing the Draconians again. And they have a plan." In the darkness of space, the new Draconian fleet moved closer to Earth, their weapons primed for revenge. But deep beneath the lunar surface, something ancient was stirring, a power that even the mighty Draconians feared. Alan stared at his hand, still tingling from contact with the strange liquid metal. The other team members watched him with a mixture of fear and curiosity. "What did you see?" Olivia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Not just see," Alan replied. "I felt them, the predecessors. It was like their thoughts were flowing into mine." He looked at Dr. Carter. "They know about the Draconians. They've been waiting for this moment." Before Dr. Carter could respond, their communication devices buzzed. Admiral Collins appeared on the small screens. "The second Draconian fleet has accelerated," he reported. "They'll reach Earth orbit in less than 24 hours. We need answers now." Dr. Carter looked at the pool. "Commander Price, you need to make contact again. Try to get more information." Alan nodded and approached the pool. This time he didn't hesitate. He plunged his hand into the liquid metal which swirled around his wrist like a living thing. The flood of images returned, but more organized now, as if something was consciously directing them. Alan saw Earth as it was 100,000 years ago, with different continents and strange cities built of crystal and light. He saw tall, elegant beings walking on 2 legs but with 4 arms and elongated heads. Their skin shimmered with patterns that seemed to communicate emotions and thoughts. Then he saw the arrival of the first Draconian ships, ancient versions of the same arrowhead design. The war that followed devastated Earth. The predecessors fought back with technologies that bent reality itself. A voice, or something like a voice, formed in Alan's mind. Not words exactly, but concepts that translated themselves. We faced extinction. The Draconians consume all. We could not defeat them with force alone. Alan saw more images, the predecessors gathering in massive chambers, linking their minds together. We chose transformation over death. We became energy, consciousness without physical form. We created the barrier between dimensions to hide ourselves. The Prometheus device appeared in Alan's mind, but it looked different, whole, integrated into a larger system that spanned the entire solar system. The device is not a weapon, it is a key, a bridge between your world and ours. When used, it thins the barrier. A bridge to where? Alan asked aloud. To where we exist now. Between dimensions. Beyond physical form. Alan could feel the presence of countless minds watching him, studying him. Not just watching, evaluating. Your species carries our legacy, our genetic markers. Some of you, like you, can access what we left behind. Another image appeared. A vast network of facilities hidden across Earth and throughout the solar system. We prepared for the Draconians' return. We knew they would come again. The first use of the device was a warning. If used again, the barrier will weaken further. We will begin to return. Return? Alan's voice echoed in the chamber. You want to come back? Not in the form you imagine. Our return would change the nature of your reality. Your world would never be the same. Alan pulled his hand from the pool, gasping. The others rushed to his side. What happened? Dr. Carter demanded. They're watching us, Alan said. They've been watching us for thousands of years. The predecessors didn't just leave us their technology, they left parts of themselves inside us. He pointed to his own chest. The genetic markers that let me activate their technology? It's their DNA, mixed with human DNA over thousands of generations. Olivia's eyes widened. They engineered us? Not exactly, Alan replied. More like they gave certain humans the ability to access their legacy, and now they want to come back. Dr. Carter frowned. Come back how? You said they transformed themselves. Into energy beings, existing between dimensions. The Prometheus. Device isn't just a weapon, it's a doorway, and they're on the other side waiting. Lieutenant Susan Mitchell entered the chamber, tablet in hand. The Draconian fleet has sent a message. They're demanding we return their ships and crews. Alan laughed without humor. We can't. They're trapped in another dimension. They've given us 6 hours to comply, Susan continued. After that, they'll begin planetary bombardment. Dr. Carter paced around the edge of the pool. We need to find other defenses. The predecessors must have left more than just the Prometheus device. They did, Alan said. But we have to find them. He turned to Olivia. The symbols on these walls, can you translate them? They might tell us where to look. Olivia studied. The shifting patterns. I think they're coordinates, locations on Earth where other facilities are hidden. For the next few hours, the team worked frantically. Olivia translated coordinates that pointed to locations deep in the Amazon rainforest, beneath the Pacific Ocean and inside the Antarctic ice sheet. Other teams were dispatched to investigate. On the Draconian command ship, Admiral Vexus Herrick watched Earth grow larger on the main view screen. Unlike his predecessor, he had brought a fleet 3 times larger, with weapons designed to reduce the entire planet to ash. Any response to our demands? He asked his communication officer. None, Admiral. Vex Herrick's scaled face showed no emotion. Prepare the first wave of bombardment. Target their major cities first. Back on the moon, Alan received reports from the team sent to Earth. The facility in the Amazon had been found, a pyramid of unknown metal buried under the jungle floor. In Antarctica, another team discovered a vast chamber beneath 2 miles of ice, filled with technology similar to the lunar base. They're all connected, Alan realized. The predecessors built a network across the planet. Dr. Carter studied the data. But what does it do? How can it help us against the Draconians? Alan approached the pool again. I need to ask them. This time, when he touched the liquid metal, the connection was immediate and clear, as if the predecessors had been waiting. The network is a shield. If activated together, it can protect your world without using the key. An image formed in Alan's mind. Earth surrounded by a shimmering field of energy. Draconian weapons fire dissipating harmlessly. Against it, But the shield is temporary. The Draconians will eventually break through. They have grown stronger since our time. Then what? Alan asked. How do we defeat them permanently? You must choose. Use the key again and we will return. We will end the Draconian threat forever, but our return has a price. What price? Reality as you know it will change. Some of your kind will not survive the transition. Those with our markers will become more like us, the others. The presence in Alan's mind hesitated, if such a thing was possible for an energy being. We offer you the truth, descendant. The Draconians fear us more than any weapon. There is a reason they sought to exterminate us. We are not what you would call benevolent. We are survival. We are evolution. We are transformation. Alan pulled away from the pool, his mind reeling with the implications. We have a choice to make, he told the others. We can activate the shield network and buy some time, or we can use the Prometheus device again and bring back the predecessors. But you said they warned against using it again, Olivia reminded him. They did, because it would start their return, and they admitted they aren't exactly friendly. Alan looked at each person in the room. The Draconians will be here in 3 hours. Earth's fate depends on our decision. Susan checked her tablet. The shield facilities are reporting ready status. We can activate the network now. Dr. Carter nodded. Do it. At least it buys us time to consider our options. As Susan sent the activation codes, Alan stared at the pool of liquid metal. Deep inside, he could feel the presence of countless ancient minds watching, waiting, and he couldn't shake the feeling that they were hoping humanity would make the wrong choice. The shield activated with a subtle ripple that spread across Earth's atmosphere. From the lunar facility, Alan and his team watched as a faint, pearlescent glow enveloped the planet. It was beautiful, like Earth had been wrapped in an iridescent bubble. Shield network at full power, Susan reported, monitoring the readings on her tablet. All nodes functioning normally. Dr. Carter studied the data streams. Remarkable. The energy signature is unlike anything in our records. It's bending space itself around the planet. 2 hours later, the Draconian fleet arrived. 500 massive warships formed a ring around Earth, their weapon systems glowing with gathered energy. They're firing, Susan announced, her voice steady despite the tension. On the main screen, they watched as beams of intense red energy lanced from the Draconian ships toward Earth. When they struck the shield, they spread out like water hitting glass, dispersing harmlessly across the protective barrier. It's working, Olivia whispered. Admiral Vexus Herrick stood on the bridge of his flagship, his reptilian features twisted in fury. Impossible. Increase power to all weapons. Fire everything. The Draconian fleet unleashed its full arsenal. Thousands of energy beams and projectiles hammered against Earth's shield. The pearlescent barrier flickered but held. Status? Admiral Collins asked from Earth Defense Command. Shield integrity at 92%, Susan replied. But it's dropping. The Draconians are adjusting their weapons frequency to match the shield's resonance. Dr. Carter frowned. At this rate, we have maybe 12 hours before the shield fails. Then we need to find another solution, Alan said. He looked at the liquid metal pool, still and silent in the center of the chamber. I need to speak with them again. Commander, Olivia cautioned. Remember what they said. Their return could be dangerous for humanity. We need more information, Alan insisted. We need to know exactly what would happen if we activated the Prometheus device again. Before anyone could stop him, Alan thrust his hand into the pool. The connection was immediate, stronger than before. The presence of the predecessors filled his mind. You return with questions. We expected this. What exactly will happen if we use the Prometheus device again? Alan asked. You said reality would change. How? The barrier between dimensions would weaken further. We would begin to cross over, not as physical beings, but as energy and consciousness. Alan saw images of Earth surrounded by swirling patterns of light and energy. Those of your kind who carry our genetic markers would evolve rapidly. Your consciousness would expand. You would begin to perceive reality as we do, across multiple dimensions simultaneously. And those without your genetic markers? Some would adapt, others would not survive the transition. Their minds would break under the strain of expanded perception. How? Many would die? Perhaps 30% of your population. The rest would be transformed to varying degrees. Alan felt sick. That's over 2 billion people. The alternative is extinction by the Draconians. They will not stop until your world is conquered. The shield will fail. You have seen their determination. There must be another way. Alan insisted. A third option exists, but it requires sacrifice. Images flowed into Alan's mind, the Prometheus device, modified to create a targeted dimensional rift. The device could be reconfigured to create a doorway affecting only a small area. One human with the strongest genetic markers could serve as a bridge, allowing a portion of our consciousness to return through them. This consciousness could then interface with your technology to create more effective defenses. A human host? You mean possession? Not possession, symbiosis. The host would retain their identity but gain our knowledge and abilities. It would be painful. Few would survive the process, and it would only require one person, not billions. One person with the strongest genetic compatibility. You, Commander Price. Alan pulled his hand from the pool, gasping. The others rushed to his side. What happened? Dr. Carter asked. What? Did they tell you? Alan explained the third option, the modified Prometheus device, the symbiosis, the sacrifice required. Absolutely not, Olivia said firmly. We can't let you do that. The choice isn't yours, Alan replied. And we're running. Out of options. The shield will fail in less than 12 hours. We should bring this to the president, Susan suggested. This isn't a decision we can make alone. An emergency session was called. Through secure video link, Alan explained the three options to President Rodriguez and the World Security Council. Option 1, we do nothing, the shield fails and the Draconians destroy us. Option 2, we activate the Prometheus device again, bringing back the predecessors. This saves humanity from the Draconians but transforms our reality. Up to 2 billion people might not survive the change. Option 3, we modify the device to create a targeted doorway. I serve as a host for a portion of the predecessor's consciousness. If it works, we gain their knowledge and power to defeat the Draconians. If it fails, I die, and we're back to options 1 and 2. President Rodriguez looked grave. The choice seems clear, Commander Price. Option 3 is the only acceptable risk. I agree, Alan said. But there's something else you should know. The predecessors aren't the benevolent ancestors we might hope for. They're survivors focused on evolution and their own return. I don't think they're telling us everything. Can we trust them at all? Admiral Collins asked. I don't think trust is the right word, Alan replied. But their goal of stopping the Draconians aligns with ours, at least for now. Dr. Carter spoke up. We can modify the Prometheus device as they suggested, but we'll add safeguards. If anything goes wrong, we can shut it down. How long will the modifications take? President Rodriguez asked. 6 hours, Dr. Carter estimated. Maybe less if we have help from the other facilities. The shield will hold that long, Susan confirmed. Barely. President Rodriguez nodded. Proceed with option 3, Commander. And thank you for your courage. The video link ended. Alan looked at his team, saw the concern in their eyes. I made my choice when I joined the Defense Force, he told them. I swore to protect Earth. This is how I do it. As they began modifying the Prometheus device, Olivia approached Alan. The predecessors chose you specifically, she said quietly. Have you considered why? Alan nodded. I have the strongest genetic markers. That's what they claim anyway. Or maybe they want something from you personally, Olivia suggested. Something they're not telling us. Outside the shield, the Draconian fleet continued its relentless assault. The barrier was weakening faster than predicted, its pearlescent glow fluctuating under the barrage. In his quarters, Alan stared at his reflection in the mirror. Soon, he might not be entirely human anymore. Part of him would become one of the ancient beings who had watched humanity evolve. He wondered if anything of Alan Price would remain afterward. When Dr. Carter called to say the modified device was ready, Alan took one last look at himself. Then he walked to the chamber where either humanity's salvation or its final transformation awaited. The modified Prometheus device hummed with energy in the center of the lunar chamber. It looked different now, a ring of strange metal surrounding a platform where Alan would stand. Dr. Carter made final adjustments while Olivia checked the translations one last time. "The safeguards are in place," Dr. Carter said. "If your vital signs become critical, the system will shut down automatically." Alan nodded, his face calm despite what lay ahead. "How much time do we have?" Susan checked her tablet. "Shield integrity down to 28%, less than 3 hours before failure." "Then let's not waste time." Alan stepped onto the platform. Metal restraints rose from the floor, securing his arms and legs. "These will help keep you stable during the process," Dr. Carter explained. "The energy transfer will be intense." Olivia approached Alan. "Are you sure about this?" "No," Alan admitted with a slight smile. "But I'm sure about protecting Earth." Dr. Carter took his position at the control panel. "Initiating in 3, 2, 1. The ring around Alan began to spin, faster and faster until it became a blur. The liquid metal from the pool rose into the air, defying gravity, and formed a floating sphere above Alan's head. Blue energy arced between the ring and the sphere. "Prometheus device at 60% capacity," Dr. Carter called out. 70%, 80%. Alan's body went rigid as the first surge of energy passed through him. Pain unlike anything he had ever experienced flooded every cell. He would have screamed if he could move his mouth. "His vital signs are spiking," Susan warned. "Heart rate critical." "We need to continue," Dr. Carter said grimly. "We're committed now." The energy intensified. In Alan's mind, the barriers between dimensions began to thin. He could see glimpses of another place, not darkness but a realm of pure energy and consciousness. Countless presences watched him, waiting. "We are here, descendant. Open your mind. Accept the transformation." Alan tried to resist the pain, to remain conscious as the energy poured into him. His vision blurred, then cleared in a way that was fundamentally different. He could see energy fields now, layers of reality he had never perceived before. "Something's happening," Olivia said, pointing to the walls. The symbols were moving, racing across the surfaces as if alive. The floating sphere of liquid metal collapsed, flowing down into Alan's body through his eyes, ears, and mouth. His skin began to shimmer with the same patterns they had seen in images of the predecessors. Inside Alan's mind, thousands of years of knowledge flooded in. Mathematical equations, scientific principles, the true nature of reality across 11 dimensions. Along with knowledge came memories, the predecessor civilization at its height, the arrival of the Draconians, the desperate plan to escape extinction through transformation. But he also sensed something hidden, something the predecessors hadn't, revealed in their communications. Their true reason for creating humans with their genetic markers, their ultimate plan. "His brain activity is off the charts," Susan reported. "It's like his mind is rewiring itself." "Prometheus device at full capacity," Dr. Carter announced. "The dimensional bridge is forming. Above the facility, space itself seemed to fold. A rift appeared, not large, just a few meters wide, but through it came streams of light and energy that flowed into Alan's transformed body. "We are with you now, descendant. We are one." With a final surge, the process completed. The restraints released and Alan fell to his knees. When he raised his head, his eyes glowed with an inner blue light. "Alan?" Olivia approached cautiously. "Are you still... you?" Alan stood, movements fluid and strange. "I am Alan Price," he said, his voice layered with harmonics that hadn't been there before. But I am also more. I have their knowledge now. Their power. He turned to the screen showing the Draconian fleet still hammering at Earth's failing shield. I understand now why the Draconians feared the predecessors so much, he said, and why they're so determined to destroy Earth. Tell us, Dr. Carter urged. The predecessors weren't just another species. They were evolving into something beyond physical form, something that could reshape reality itself. Alan's glowing eyes fixed on each of them. The Draconians call them the Abomination because they represent a future where physical beings like the Draconians become obsolete. He walked to the control panel and placed his hand on it. The systems responded to his touch, displays changing, to show new configurations. I can strengthen the shield now, he said, and I can do more, much more. Alan closed his eyes, and they could feel a wave of energy emanate from him. On the screen, the shield around Earth flared brighter, its energy, pattern changing. What did you do? Susan asked. I've reconfigured the shield. It's no longer just defensive. Alan smiled, an expression both familiar and alien. Watch. On the screen, the shield began to expand outward from Earth, moving toward the Draconian fleet. When it touched the first ships, they didn't vanish like before. Instead, their energy weapons shut down. Their engines failed. The massive warships drifted powerless in space. I've neutralized their technology, Alan explained. The predecessors designed their defenses to target specific energy signatures, Draconian signatures. They studied their enemy for centuries. Admiral Vex Herrick watched in horror as ship after ship went dark. What is happening? He demanded. Restore power immediately. But nothing his crew tried worked. The flagship systems were completely unresponsive. A communication signal reached the Draconian fleet, not on any frequency they recognized, but somehow playing directly in the mind of every Draconian. This is Earth, Alan's voice echoed in their thoughts. We have disabled your fleet. You are at our mercy. On the lunar base, Alan opened a channel to speak with President Rodriguez. The Draconian fleet has been neutralized, he reported. They're stranded in space with no weapons and no engines. Well done, Commander, the President replied, relief evident in her voice. Can you bring them back online? We should open negotiations. I can, Alan said. But first there's something you need to know. Something everyone on Earth needs to know. He explained what he had learned from the predecessors, not just about the Draconians, but about humanity's true heritage and future. We were never meant to be just another species, he said. The predecessors didn't just give us their genetic markers to access their technology. They were guiding our evolution toward the same transformation they underwent. Humanity is meant to evolve beyond physical form, just as they did. You're saying they engineered us to become like them? The President asked. Not exactly. They recognized potential in early humans and nudged our development, but the choice to take the next step is ours. Alan's eyes dimmed slightly, becoming more human. What happened to me today is just the beginning, a glimpse of what's possible. In space, the disabled Draconian ships drifted. Admiral Vexus Herrick received another message, this one private. Your people have tried to exterminate species, like mine for millennia, Alan's voice said in his mind, because you fear what comes after physical existence, but that fear has held you back. Evolution is not your enemy. For the first time in his long life, the Draconian admiral felt something new, not just fear, but understanding. On Earth, people emerged from shelters to see the strange glow in the sky where the shield had been. News spread quickly. The threat was over. Humanity had survived. But things would never be the same. In the lunar facility, Alan stood at the edge of the chamber looking toward Earth. Part of him was still human, with human concerns and attachments. But another part now perceived a much larger universe, full of possibilities beyond what humans had ever imagined. What happens now? Olivia asked, joining him. Now, Alan said, his eyes reflecting the blue glow of distant Earth. We decide what kind of future we want. The Draconians offered conquest. The predecessors offer transcendence. But maybe there's a third path, one that's uniquely human. He turned to face his friends, his transformed face showing a very human smile. The terrifying secret of Earth isn't what we found beneath the moon or hidden in our DNA. It's what we might become.